My name's Jess Potter. I'm a lung doctor and I'm also a public health researcher. I work at Queen Mary University of London in East London. I'm also part of a couple of activist groups, so Docs Not Cops, which is a campaign organisation that raises awareness around racist policies in the NHS and campaigns for healthcare access rights for migrants. The NHS is 70 this year, and it was founded on the principle of a health service that's free at the point of access and available to people who need it, not those who can afford to pay for it. But over successive governments, particularly in the last 5 or so years, there's been increasing barriers to accessing healthcare, and they have come as part of a number of different policy and legislative changes. And what they do is restrict healthcare access by changing a requirement or eligibility requirements in relation to healthcare access in the NHS. So more and more people are required to pay for NHS care, and most recently they introduced upfront charging for people who are not eligible for free care and require non-urgent treatment. So on a day-to-day basis, what that means is that there are women who are too afraid to maintain the appointments that they need during maternity care because they are given a bill at their first appointment, which they don't necessarily have to pay up front, but the bill in and of itself is terrifying. We heard most recently of the case of Mr. Albert Thompson, that was his pseudonym, who was refused healthcare because he was determined as being not eligible. Actually, it turned out he was eligible. He's a British citizen, but part of the Windrush generation. He needed palliative chemotherapy, so that's chemotherapy not to cure cancer, but to prolong life, and it was refused because he couldn't pay £54,000. And I don't know about you, but I am pretty good salary. I'm a doctor. There is no way I could pay £54,000 for treatment. By introducing divisions around who deserves healthcare and who doesn't, we create divisions not just amongst patients but also amongst staff. And we introduce judgments based on where a person comes from, their outward identifiers of difference, the colour of their skin, their accent, what they dress like. And for me, that is completely unacceptable. Healthcare is a human right, and we need to support our institutions to help that right to be realised, not introduce policies that restrict healthcare access for some and decisions based around who deserves healthcare and who doesn't.
My name is Mira Yuval Davis. I am a Professor Emeritus and Honorary Director of the Research Center on Migration, Refugees and Belonging, CMRB, at the University of East London. In the most recent research that we carried out about bordering, we saw what I would call everyday bordering as becoming to replace multiculturalism as the technology of control of diversity and discourses on diversity in British society, and similar things are happening outside as well. What I mean by that is that bordering and borders moved from the margin of society, both territorially and socially and politically, into the heart of society, into the heart of every day of not only the migrants, not even just the minorities, but actually everybody. The situation is that the government is asking all its citizens to become unpaid and untrained border guards. It asks them as landlords to check whether or not the passports or the visas of the tenants are valid or not, without supplying them with any means to know that, and yet criminalizing them if their tenants are caught as to be illegal. Similar things are happening in the areas of education, in the area of health, in the area, of course, of employment. This has not just happened between communities, but also within communities and even within families, because very often the employer or the landlord is a family relative of the one who still does not have their papers fully right, or have come to work in the restaurant of the son-in-law, or staying, because they're elderly and need some help. It's not just that we are living in a racist society. We are living in a society in which the government encourages us to be sensitized to these issues and to categorize people according to sun, to those who might or might not belong.